Morning mist drifts across Old Hickory Lake as ancient trees lean over the water, their reflections stretching toward a rugged wood and stone estate tucked behind the pines. This is Hendersonville, Tennessee, the country music sanctuary where Johnny and June Carter Cash built more than a home. They built a life of hits, family rituals, and private battles. Today we'll step inside that sacred ground, exploring the rooms and memories behind the legend. But first, let's rewind to the career journey that made him an icon. Johnny Cash's story begins in the red soil of Kingsland, Arkansas, where he was born in 1932 as one of 7 children. The Cash family relocated to a government resettlement colony in Dyess during the Great Depression, where young JR chopped cotton alongside his siblings from dawn to dusk. That hard-scrabble upbringing and the devastating death of his older brother Jack in a sawmill accident etched themes of sorrow, endurance, and faith into his heart, themes that would later define his music. After high school, Cash sought a new path and joined the U.S. Air Force. From 1950 to 1954, he served as a Morse code operator in West Germany, intercepting Soviet transmissions by day and forming a small band with fellow servicemen by night. It was his first real stage, blending gospel, folk, and country influences for an audience of airmen far from home. Discharged and newly married, he moved to Memphis and set his sights on Sam Phillips's Sun Records. Backed by the Tennessee Two, Luther Perkins, and Marshall Grant, Cash auditioned with stripped-down songs like Hey Porter and Cry Cry Cry. Their percussive boom-chicka-boom rhythm helped invent rockabilly, bridging honky-tonk twang and rock and roll drive. Success followed quickly. I Walk the Line became a crossover smash in 1956, and Home of the Blues cemented his outsider persona. Cash left Sun for Columbia Records, where Don't Take Your Guns to Town expanded his audience and solidified his reputation as a storyteller of working people, outlaws, and the downtrodden. By the mid-1960s, Cash was touring relentlessly, dressing head-to-toe in black as a visual protest against poverty and injustice. The Man in Black was born. Yet behind the stage persona, addiction and exhaustion took their toll. Barbiturates, amphetamines, and a near-catastrophic wildfire in California in 1965 marked his low point. He was arrested more than once and teetered on the edge of self-destruction. His redemption arc began with June Carter, the fellow performer he'd long admired. After helping him get clean, she became his wife in 1968. Their duet, Jackson, won a Grammy that same year, and The Johnny Cash Show, ABC, 1969 to 1971, brought legends like Bob Dylan and Joni Mitchell into America's living rooms, turning Cash into a national fixture beyond country radio. By 1980, he entered the Country Music Hall of Fame, but the next decade tested him again. A bizarre ostrich kick at his exotic animal farm led to painkiller dependency, and a 1988 heart bypass surgery sidelined him. By the early 1990s, he was nearly invisible to mainstream country audiences. Yet even in obscurity, Cash kept experimenting, teaming with U2 for The Wanderer in 1993 and hinting at a comeback. That comeback arrived with producer Rick Rubin and the Stark American Recordings albums, 1994 to 2002. Stripped to just voice and guitar, Cash reclaimed his artistic power. His 2002 cover of Nine Inch Nails' Hurt, paired with a devastating video filmed inside his crumbling Hendersonville estate, earned him a Grammy and reintroduced him to a new generation as a prophet of loss and grace. And while his career stretched across continents and decades, its most intimate chapters unfolded at his Hendersonville home, the lakeside refuge where triumph and tragedy intertwined. Hendersonville home, Lakeside Legacy. Just 30 minutes north of Nashville, tucked between the Cumberland River and Old Hickory Lake, stood Johnny Cash's beloved Hendersonville estate. Set on roughly 5.8 acres, it offered the kind of privacy most stars can only dream about. a secluded inlet where boats bobbed gently, and the only sound at dawn was birdsong drifting over the water. For 3.5 decades, it was both sanctuary and stage, a place where Cash and June Carter raised family, hosted legends, and wrote the music that would echo long after they were gone. The house itself was as distinctive as its owners. Designed in 1967 by Braxton Dixon, the builder to the stars who crafted homes for Roy Orbison and Tammy Wynette, the structure had no formal blueprint. Instead, Dixon and Cash scavenged materials from historic buildings across the South, hand-hewn timbers, locally quarried slate floors, and marble rescued from old hotels. The result was a residence that felt at once rustic and grand, more like a self-contained village than a celebrity mansion. Alongside the main house sat 2 guest houses, a barn, a tea room, and even a smokehouse built from pre-Civil War log cabins. Inside, the craftsmanship told its own story. Wide plank woodwork, vaulted ceilings, and massive stone fireplaces gave the rooms a frontier aura, while hidden modern touches, a heat pump, air conditioning, and updated kitchen equipment kept daily life comfortable. The interiors felt half-living museum, half-executive retreat, walls lined with gold records, hallways echoing with children's laughter, and spaces large enough for both jam sessions and formal dinners. Friends recall Cash balancing his daughter's toys with rehearsal equipment, joking that his house looked like a daycare with a stage. The main house featured 6 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, with a layout designed for both family privacy and large gatherings. The wraparound porch facing Old Hickory Lake became Cash's favorite writing spot. On summer evenings, he and June would rehearse songs there, their harmonies carrying across the water. Neighbors remembered hearing live previews of hits through the outdoor speakers, a free concert from the Man in Black himself. Beyond the main residence, the grounds held tennis courts, a pool, and a guardhouse for security. It was a property that captured Cash's dual nature, open-hearted and community-minded, yet fiercely protective of his family's space. But like much of Cash's life, the estate carried a tragic note. In 2007, 4 years after his death, a fire swept through the 14,000-square-foot mansion, leaving only the tennis court, pool, and guardhouse. What had been a living, breathing piece of music history was reduced to ashes. Yet in the collective memory of fans and locals, the Hendersonville home remains a shrine, the place where country music's most enduring rebel found his refuge. And to understand the full picture of Cash's private life, we can travel west to his earlier retreat in Casitas Springs, California, a hillside ranch that reveals another side of the Man in Black. Casitas Springs, California ranch, black toilet, and family years. In 1961, flush with success from I Walk the Line and constant touring, Cash and his first wife, Vivian Liberto, purchased a 6-acre property with sweeping views of the Ojai Valley. It wasn't just another celebrity getaway. Cash worked closely with builders to create a home that reflected his quirks and contradictions. The resulting 4,500-square-foot house became a symbol of both his rising stardom and his unraveling private life. Inside, the decor was bold and bespoke. Lacquered ceilings shimmered in the California light. A wall-mounted turntable pumped music through an intercom system connecting every room, and a curved brick fireplace dominated the living area, part cozy hearth, part performance stage. The kitchen was customized to Cash's tastes, stocked for marathon songwriting sessions and late-night snacks. It was an early glimpse of how he merged work and life under one roof. The home featured 5 bedrooms and 4.5 baths, with 2 dramatically different master suites. Cash's quarters included the now famous dark-tiled shower and black toilet, a moody counterpoint to Vivian's pastel feminine suite on the opposite wing. Friends joked that walking from one end of the house to the other was like traveling from Sun Records to a Southern Baptist parlor. Outside, the grounds were as distinctive as the interior. A swimming pool, barns, and a hillside BBQ pit overlooked the valley below. Over time, the barbecue area became an informal stage. Locals still tell stories of Johnny's hillside concerts, when the man in black would play for friends and neighbors drifting up from the town below. Spent shell casings from target practice sometimes mingled with the ashes of the grill, a fitting metaphor for a life that blurred the line between outlaw image and family man. Looking back, the Casitas Springs Ranch captured Cash at a crossroads. He was building a family with Vivian and their 4 daughters, but also living a touring schedule and lifestyle that would ultimately strain the marriage. Yet the house itself remains a time capsule of early 60s celebrity audacity and rural California charm. As one journalist quipped, "If Airbnb had existed in 1965, this place would have been the top trending retreat." From Casitas Springs' black-tiled bathroom to Hendersonville's lakeside porch, Cash's homes mirrored the chapters of his life, each one a stage for triumphs, temptations, and reinvention. And just as these properties charted his personal journey, his career earnings tell the story of how a sharecropper's son built an empire from his music, income, and net worth. Adjusted for inflation, his net worth is estimated at roughly $60 million, to more than 50 years of writing, recording, touring, and licensing. Few country artists before or since have matched his blend of mainstream success and countercultural influence, or translated it so effectively into revenue streams. At the heart of that fortune were his record sales and royalties. Cash sold over 90 million records worldwide, spanning country, rock, gospel, and folk. Lifetime royalties from albums like I Walk the Line, At Folsom Prison, At San Quentin, and the American Recordings series brought in an estimated $40 to $50 million, including posthumous sales spikes after his death in 2003. His voice, steady, resonant, and unmistakable, remained a bankable asset long after radio had moved on. Touring added another lucrative pillar. Cash was one of the first country stars to make prison concerts a marquee event, selling millions of albums and merchandise tied to those performances. Combined with mainstream tours, his concert and merchandise income is estimated at $10 to $15 million over his lifetime. Even the black stagewear became a brand. Fans could buy Man in Black jackets, hats, and t-shirts, generating $5 to $10 million in branded clothing and memorabilia revenue. Television and film rounded out the picture. The Johnny Cash Show on ABC, 1969 to 1971, earned him steady network paychecks and residuals, while appearances in movies such as 5 Minutes to Live and Stagecoach plus voiceovers and commercials added another $2 to $5 million. His songwriting catalog and collaborations, from June Carter to Bob Dylan to U2, contributed an additional $5 to $10 million in publishing rights and performance royalties, a stream that continues for his estate. And just as his career earnings tell a story of scale, his philanthropy tells a story of heart. The Man in Black didn't just sing for the marginalized. He gave back to them in ways that still resonate today. Philanthropy. One of his most enduring commitments was to SOS Children's Villages, an international charity that provides homes for orphaned and abandoned children. Cash first encountered the organization while stationed with the U.S. Air Force in Germany in the early 1950s and remained a supporter for the rest of his life. He often invited SOS children to his concerts in Europe and the U.S., personally greeting them backstage. At his funeral in 2003, the family asked for donations to SOS Children's Villages in lieu of flowers, underscoring how deeply this cause ran through his life. As one Nashville paper joked, the man once arrested for picking flowers ended up funding homes for kids who had none, a line Cash himself might have appreciated. But his giving went far beyond a single charity. Over the decades, Cash and June Carter contributed to a wide range of organizations, including the American Cancer Society, mental health associations, homes for autistic children, refuges for battered women, the YWCA, Youth for Christ, Campus Life, and various humane societies. Rather than issuing press releases, they often sent checks quietly or hosted benefit shows where proceeds flowed directly to local groups. These efforts reflected the same restless empathy that fueled his music, a belief that everyone, from prisoners to stray animals, deserved dignity. Cash's most visible form of advocacy was his work on prison reform. His live albums at Folsom Prison, 1968, and at San Quentin, 1969, weren't just marketing gimmicks, they were statements of solidarity with the incarcerated. He performed for inmates dozens of times, sometimes lobbying wardens and politicians to improve conditions. Cash also met privately with prisoners, offering words of encouragement and sometimes financial help for legal or educational needs. Those concerts gave him two of his most successful records, but more importantly, they cemented his reputation as an artist who stood with the marginalized rather than just singing about them. Humor and humility laced his giving. Cash liked to tell stories about being jailed overnight for minor offenses, including one infamous incident of picking flowers from a neighbor's yard in Starkville, Mississippi, and he would quip that his own record gave him credibility as an advocate. In 2007, the city even issued a posthumous pardon and started an annual Johnny Cash flower picking festival to celebrate that spirit of mischievous redemption. By blending global outreach with local action, Cash and June modeled a kind of philanthropy that was as homespun as it was impactful. Whether writing a check to a battered women's shelter or standing in front of 2,000 inmates at San Quentin, he acted on the same impulse, to make life a little better for those in dark places. And behind these public gestures was a deeply personal story of family, faith, and struggle. The private life that shaped and sustained the man in black. Personal life. He met Vivian Liberto in 1951 at a skating rink in San Antonio while stationed there with the Air Force. They wrote hundreds of letters during his overseas service and married in 1954, just as his music career was taking off. Together they had 4 daughters, Roseanne, Kathy, Cindy, and Tara, and settled into what seemed like a stable family life. But the relentless grind of touring, Cash's growing addiction to pills, and rumors of affairs strained the marriage beyond repair. By 1966, while living at the Casitas Springs Ranch, the couple divorced, leaving Vivian to raise their children while Johnny spiraled. For years, June Carter had been his musical partner and moral compass from afar. They had known each other for 13 years before Cash finally proposed, famously dropping to one knee on stage in Ontario, Canada, in 1968 before thousands of fans. They married on March 1st of that year in Franklin, Kentucky, blending their families. Cash became stepfather to June's daughters, Carlene and Rosie, and together they welcomed their only biological child, John Carter Cash, in 1970. The couple's 35-year marriage became a cornerstone of Cash's late-life stability. June was more than a duet partner. She was, as friends joked, a rehab counselor without a paycheck, flushing pills down hotel sinks and steering him toward sobriety again and again. They toured together, recorded together, and raised children together, projecting an image of resilience and faith even as Cash battled relapses and health issues. June Carter. Cash died in May 2003 at the age of 73. Just 4 months later, on September 12, 2003, Johnny followed her, their intertwined lives ending as closely as they had been lived. Friends say he never recovered from her death, pouring what strength he had left into his final recordings. Health and death. Even as his voice deepened and his frame thinned, Johnny Cash refused to stop recording. In 1997, doctors diagnosed him with Shy-Drager syndrome, a rare form of autonomic neuropathy that mimics Parkinson's disease, affecting blood pressure, movement, and organ function. He was hospitalized repeatedly throughout the late 1990s and early 2000s for pneumonia and complications related to diabetes. Yet he kept showing up to the studio, his hands trembling as he gripped the guitar, pouring himself into American 3, Solitary Man, and American 4, The Man Comes Around. Those albums, recorded with Rick Rubin, sounded like a farewell whispered from a man who knew his time was short, but still had something to say. Cash's determination astonished friends and family. Sessions were sometimes interrupted by coughing fits or fainting spells, but he insisted on continuing. "This is my medicine," he reportedly told Rubin. "This is what keeps me alive." The result was a body of work that turned decline into art, offering listeners unvarnished truth about mortality and faith. His cover of Hurt became a cultural phenomenon. The accompanying video, filmed inside his crumbling Hendersonville mansion, felt like a living will, a visual eulogy set to music. On September 12, 2003, at 2 a.m., Johnny Cash died at Baptist Hospital in Nashville from complications related to diabetes. He was 71 years old, just 4 months after losing June. His funeral at First Baptist Church in Hendersonville drew fans, dignitaries, and fellow musicians from around the world. The service mixed gospel hymns with tributes, reflecting the man's dual identity as both outlaw and believer. Outside, locals lined the streets, holding black roses and homemade signs that read, "Thank you, Johnny." Even in death, Cash's legend kept growing. In 2007, Starkville, Mississippi, the town where he'd once been arrested for picking flowers, issued a posthumous pardon and launched the annual Johnny Cash Flower Picking Festival, turning a minor misdemeanor into a celebration of redemption. His tour bus, JC Unit 1, now resides at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, preserved as a rolling museum of his life on the road. In 2013, the U.S. Postal Service honored him with a Forever stamp, his silhouette in black against a blood-red background. The Johnny Cash Trail in Folsom, California, lets visitors bike or walk past art installations commemorating his prison concerts, and in 2021, Arkansas voted to place a statue of Cash in the National Statuary Hall in Washington, D.C. In 2024, a posthumous album titled Songwriter, featuring unreleased demos from the 1990s, reminded the world that even decades later, new verses from Cash can still emerge. It is fitting that the Man in Black's final years echoed the themes of his earliest songs: pain, perseverance, and the possibility of grace. He transformed suffering into sound and left behind not just music, but a moral legacy, a reminder that even the darkest life can produce light. And as we leave Hendersonville and Casitas Springs behind, we step into his legacy's echo, a man who turned pain into music and music into a legend. If this glimpse into the Man in Black's life moved you, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap the notification bell so you never miss the next tour and story. By joining us on these journeys, you help keep the stories of America's icons alive. Thank you for watching this video, and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.